So if you haven't seen it, Tim Gurner, who is a CEO, was on a panel and pretty much accidentally revealed how the economy is rigged whilst also attacking workers.
I think the problem that we've had is that we have people decided they didn't really want to work so much anymore through COVID, and that has had a massive issue on productivity. Tradies have definitely pulled back on productivity. They have been paid a lot to do not too much in the last few years, and we need to see that change. We need to see unemployment rise. Unemployment has to jump 40, 50% in my view. We need to see pain in the economy. We need to remind people that they work for the employer, not the other way around. I mean, there's been a systematic change where employees feel the employer is extremely lucky to have them, as opposed to the other way around. So it's a dynamic that has to change. We've got to kill that attitude, and that has to come through hurting the economy, which is what the whole global, the world is trying to do. The governments around the world are trying to increase unemployment to get that to some sort of normality. And we're seeing it. I think every employer now is seeing it. I mean, there is definitely massive layoffs going off. People might not be talking about it, but people are definitely laying people off, and we're starting to see less arrogance in the employment market, and that has to continue because that will cascade across the cost balance.
So I'm going to take this point by point because there's a lot of things here, and I'm sure just by watching that video you can see how insane the arguments were, but I will take it point by point. The first thing he says is that workers aren't, they're not working as hard. Essentially, they're becoming too lazy. Well, people realised through COVID how undervalued they had been. Now, hospitality, a sector that I worked in during COVID, before and after, that was a sector that was hit by COVID massively. Bars and restaurants struggled to hire people. The reason being because people didn't think, working their asses off whilst being harassed was worth minimum wage. Now, for a lot of people, lockdowns actually gave people an opportunity to find better opportunities. So during normal times, let's be honest, in reality, you're working all the time. You don't typically look for other places to work. You're working all day. You get home. You haven't got time. You're doing the cooking, the washing up, the washing, sleep. On a weekend, you're going out seeing friends, or you're too tired. You just want to do nothing, which, by the way, doing nothing is a legitimate form of leisure. Now, for those that do look for other jobs, typically it's in the same sector and the same pay. A lot of people just don't move. But during lockdown, if you were lucky enough to be furloughed, a lot of people had time to look for better jobs with higher pay, higher conditions. But that's bad. I thought the goal was to have a higher educated, higher skilled, healthy, productive workforce, but I guess not. Now, this guy also says that people are being paid more for their time, and he doesn't like that we should pay them less and make them work harder, which is literally the goal as a CEO. He then says he wants employment to rise. Now, why does he say this? The reason being is because he wants workers to become more desperate. Therefore, they would take any shit-paying jobs because there's no alternative. He thinks it's a good thing that people are coerced into bad jobs. Now, the higher the unemployment rate, the more desperate people become who fight over more scarce jobs. He wants people to essentially lose their already very limited bargaining power. He wants to see pain in the economy. Like, we don't live in a meritocracy. We live in a psychocracy, which is a word I just made up, where we essentially put the biggest psychopath maniacs at the top of society, like this guy. He also arrogantly claims that you work for the employer, they don't work for you. Now, aside from that disgusting arrogance, companies and CEOs would be nothing without these workers. Workers do the work, hence the name. Now, companies like Tesco wouldn't open if the cleaners don't turn up. They wouldn't make any money if the cashiers aren't there. Think about the delivery drivers, the producers of the products, the quality control people. Companies are nothing without these people. But if one little CEO had a little accident, fell down a well, and, unfortunately dies, nothing happens, because what would happen is the board of directors would step up and they would do the work, or they'll find another CEO. Essentially, companies continue as normal. CEOs are useless. They bring no value. The arrogance of this man. Now, he shows that his job is to exploit workers, to suck money and value out of society. He also says that, the way the system currently is, employers are lucky to have workers and it should be the other way around. No, you're damn right you're lucky, because you'd be nothing without them. He also talks about going back to normality. Now, normality, in his view, is that people can't survive on their paltry wage that their psycho bosses give them, because that's happening right now. That is normality. So he essentially wants it to be worse. The richest have doubled their wealth during COVID. Big businesses have never had it better. Now, I want to make this clear. He's going viral because he's a greedy CEO. I have a feeling that other outlets will cover this, but I'm more skeptical about how they will cover it because this isn't some evil outlier. This is the standard. He's just doing his job. This isn't one bad apple. This is the system. His role is to make his company as much money as possible. And to do that, he wants workers to have less pay, less rights. He wants them more desperate so they have less of a will to fight back. He's also calling for systemic change to make it worse. So not only is he proving that he can't fully do it himself, even though that's his job, he wants help, probably via the government to exploit workers more. I mean, he made the claim that governments are already doing this, which is funny because guys like him typically talk about personal responsibility, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, yet he wants taxpayers to fund policies to help enrich himself and those like him. Welfare queen much? He's also a property tycoon, so he's literally just a leech on society. This is capitalism. This is how it works. And the CEO eloquently described the system far better than many other people. So what do us working class people say? We say, fuck you, and join a union.